All right, good morning. Let me just do a quick refresher to make sure it's showing up on your guys' end really well. And then we will jump into painting. So awesome. Hi, Mike. Hi, Sonia. Glad you guys could jump on. There we go. There's the feed. All right. So this is Paint with Lovejoy, our daily demo today. And all of the daily demos are viewer requests. So if you have something you'd like me to paint, please leave a comment or something in the chat. All right, so a little bit of what you're looking at. Today I am using a brand new canvas, so there's not a texture on the background. But on some of the other demos, you'll see that there's a texture, and I do what I call reusing the canvas, re-gessoing the canvas. And it's just a nice way to kind of be able to paint quite a few, but not buy a bunch of canvases. So if you're interested in checking that out, look at the other demos and you can find that link. And then the other thing that you're looking at, we have what we call our line drawing on here, or basic composition. And I do recommend that you pause the video, draw what you see, and then pick up the video again and start painting. If that seems a little too intimidating, at the end of this demo, I will upload this Traceable to my website. You can purchase it, download it, and then with carbon paper, you can transfer that to your canvas. And for my beginner painters, it's a nice way to get your initial composition on the canvas, and then that way you can just focus on painting. And for anybody that is doing the carbon transfer and you don't have a carbon paper at home, I actually just released a video yesterday on how to, basically an art hack on how to transfer with just a graphite pencil. So check that out if you do not have carbon paper. And today I'll also be releasing a video on how to draw what you see. And basically you would take this image, break it up into 4 quadrants, and then using your power of observation, just take it line by line and draw what you see in each square. So that will be released today. So for our Monstera, our leaf painting today, we are keeping kind of a limited color palette. We're going to be using a lot of yellow and orange. I'm going to keep the white canvas as the background, but if you want to put a color in there, feel free to do that. But we're going to focus more on kind of doing some blending and smaller brush control. So for some of you that have wanted to work in smaller sections on your blending, this will be a good painting for you. We will kind of create a base, and then like my other videos, we'll put a lighter and a darker color on top of that. So for our base, I'm actually going to start with yellow, pull some of that aside, and I am on a small medium flat brush, or actually I'm on a filbert, so it's got the rounded tip, and I'm on an 8x10 canvas, so I'm painting kind of small today. Actually, pretty much all the videos are 8x10 canvases. All right, so you start with your yellow, mix a little bit of green in there until you kind of come to like a medium yellow that you like, or medium yellow green. And whoops, grabbed a little too much green, so throwing some more yellow in there. There we go, that's a little closer to what I'm looking for. All right, and I have seen these plants, you know, in various shades of green and yellow green and everything, so feel free to change the shade to what you want. Awesome. Awesome. Anita, you're already pouring a glass of wine. It's a little early for me out here, but cheers and enjoy. I actually had a Zoom meeting with a bunch of our artists from Liberty Station. We did a little critique. So we all had our glass of wine yesterday for that. All right, so with your color, we're basically going to kind of, I think we'll take it like half and half. So we'll do the bottom half, do the blending, and then we'll go up to the top half and do the same thing. So that way you can get comfortable with your wet on wet blending. If you are using student grade paint or paint that dries kind of quickly, doing half the leaf and then the other half will help for those of you that do have faster drying paint at home. And with this one, you are going to keep a bit more brush control. So remember to breathe. And if you need to move down to one of the smaller brushes or use something different, feel free to switch it up to what you need. I will be painting right over those black outlines. I probably will not redo the black outlines at the end of this demo, but if you want to add it to yours, you can, and it just kind of gives it a bit of a pop art feel, a little bit more contemporary, but again, totally your style choice. And as I'm leaving the white background, if you do what I just did right there, and you get a little bit of your color into it, while it's wet, you can't actually use the back of the brush, kind of scrape a little bit of it off, or at the end of your painting, after all this is dry, just go back in with white paint. Make sure that you are using pure white paint and nothing tinted, so that way it'll match with the color of the canvas. All right, and again, I'm going to apply this paint kind of thick so we can do some of our blending on top of that. And with this being one that we are focusing a bit more on blending, I was more prone to use a fresh canvas that has not been re-gessoed, just because the re-gessoed canvases, with the amount of layers of paint that usually go on there or the extra gesso, they will tend to dry out a lot faster when you put paint on top of it. And I think in some of my prior demos, I've commented on how quickly the paint was absorbed and dried. And again, as you're making your color for your plant, if you maybe have to mix it 2 or 3 times, don't stress, because we do have a few places where it's going to be a little bit lighter on our plant, a little bit darker in some areas. So a little variety is to your benefit. And if you're holding your breath, take a big inhale. Even if you're not painting along, just take a big inhale. We cannot do that enough these days. And as you're going a little bit slower, you are working on that brush control. So again, just notice the different shapes that you can make as you maybe push a little bit more pressure, how you can curve it. Maybe if you are using a flat tipped brush, how you can kind of use that edge to keep a crisp line as you're going around along the perimeter. So along with our blending today, we are working on our brush control. And some days are better, some days are easier than others. So just accept where you're at today. And since I've been doing these videos pretty much every day, I think I'm at like 45 days or something. I'll have to actually count it. I can definitely tell that there are some days that I'm really happy and excited to paint, and then only 1 or 2 days where it was just like, oh, I'm so tired, don't feel good, didn't really want to paint. And yesterday happened to be one of those days. So even when you're not feeling good, it is still good to just paint and go through the motions, just because it is really healthy. And then it makes you appreciative of the days when it flows really effortlessly compared to the days that it might be a bit more of a struggle. So it is kind of nice that because I am doing these, I'm showing you guys that I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. You can step out of your comfort zone. Like, no matter what you accomplish in life, there's always things that you're going to find uncomfortable and you have to step out of your zone to deal with. And if you can do that more in art, it makes it easier when you need to do that in life. All right, it's a party going on in the chat. Awesome. I like all the wine glasses that I'm seeing on everybody's comments. Good. Well, definitely cheers. It is happy hour somewhere in the world. So drink up and enjoy. I will be partaking this afternoon after I'm done painting. I have taught for those wine and sip companies like 7, 8 years ago, and we were allowed to drink on the job. And I was pretty much good if I could have 1 glass of wine or 1 beer. If I had more than that, then it actually didn't turn out to be the greatest of paintings. All right, so since we have kind of half our flower now, we're going to start doing the wet on wet blending. So I am moving down to the pointy brush, and like I've done in some of the other videos, we're going to basically slap some color on here, and then we'll go back with a slightly drier brush and blend it in. So I am starting with the yellow, and the yellow just kind of warms it up a little bit. And as I'm looking at my reference photo, it does look like the light is kind of coming from the top. So a lot of the highlights are hanging out kind of in the center of the leaf, each little, the whole thing's a leaf. I'm not quite sure what these extra little fingers are. We're going to call them fingers, plant fingers today on the Monstera. All right, so I am just kind of basically slapping that yellow right kind of on the center of each of these little fingers. And on this one back here, I'm making sure it's kind of going on that little section that's overlapping that finger. And then we do have some kind of hanging out in the center. So once you've kind of got that yellow on there, and you may need to reapply because this yellow will get eaten up quickly in the green, wipe that brush off. You don't necessarily have to clean it because we're in a similar color scheme. And two blending options. You can take your brush and with light pressure, you're just kind of smushing that yellow into it. And as you can see, it diffused very quickly. So that's one method, and I'll probably put a little more yellow on there. Another method is that stabbing method, to where you're just basically tapping the bristles, pick up a little bit of both colors and blend them. So whichever one that you're finding a little bit more comfort with today, go with that one for your blending. I think I'm going to move back and do more of the longer brush strokes for blending. All right. Oh, nice. Yes, I wish I could send you wine with the kits. So you have to provide that for yourself. All right. But it definitely helps. I call it liquid courage. And it kind of helps you with those beginning stages of like, well, let's just try this. So the wine and the alcohol helps. With that being said, though, please be of legal age to partake in your wine or extracurricular activities. And just because I am a YouTube public channel, I have to state that. So any of my underage kids that are watching this, please wait till you are of age to partake in the adult beverages. All right, so here I'm actually throwing a bit more yellow on just because I didn't like how quickly it diffused. And no matter which blending method that you're doing, because we are putting that lighter color and it diffuses quickly, instead of keeping your brush perpendicular and having the bristles kind of pushed back to the canvas, if you hold your brush kind of sideways in almost a 45-degree angle, that way you can do the blending. You are able to keep smoother strokes when you do that as well, but you're kind of more placing the color on top of it and just messing with it instead of having to deal with the texture or the canvas or the white of the canvas showing through. And as you're doing this, again, remember to get out of your chair, look at your painting from 5 to 10 feet away, assess if that highlight's going to be enough. Maybe it needs to be brighter. Maybe your shadow that we're going to do next needs to be darker. But remember to look at it from that perspective and change and adjust what you need on your canvas. And again, as we do this, your brain is getting comfortable with the pressure of your brush and what it feels like. And hopefully if you've been doing, following along with all 30 days or you're painting on a regular basis, I hope you are seeing a bit more comfort level in your motor skills of controlling the brush. All right, so now we're going to clean the brush out really good, and we're going to go with green. And you've got two options here as we mix. You can either mix it with the blue or you can mix it with the black. Like I've said in other videos, we were taught in school to basically learn to make all your colors without using black, you know, and that's a matter of learning which ones you can mix. So if you want to go in that route, I want you to mix with the blue. If you don't really care if you use black or not and want to, mix it with the black. I will mix both just so you can see, and that way you can decide which one that you want, because they do kind of change the way it looks a little bit. So I'm going to just put two little blobs next to each. I'm going to wipe that brush off. Tiny amount of both colors goes a long way. So a lot of times I'll even just kind of set that black next to the color I'm going to mix it with, and that helps get a lot of that excess off my brush, and then start mixing. All right, so you can see that it's kind of a cool, darker color. So let me clean the brush and I'll do it with the blue, and you can decide which one that you like better. And the blue gives it a bit more of a turquoisey, slightly, I would say almost a little tropical feel to it, to where it's a little bit more muted and monotone with the black added to the green. So again, your call. I'm a little more partial to not using the black, so I'm going to start with the black and the blue and the green. If this isn't dark enough, I'll actually switch over and grab some black too. So even if you make one decision and then later realize it needs to be something else, totally okay. And here we're going to put these a little bit more sparing in small spaces. Like I've got a bit more of a shadow hanging out here, and then we've got some kind of coming down on the fingers of this leaf. So again, I'm just going to kind of chunk and place those colors, and then we'll go back and blend. And let's make a little bit more. And this one, compared to the yellow, the lighter color, it's not going to get eaten up as quickly. So you will see how this color will be a little bit overpowering. And if you need to, if you end up putting too much of this on and you need to wipe off some of that color, you can wipe it off with a paper towel and then go back to your blending. So with this one, because of what I just said about the darker color, I'm going to clean that brush out really good. So that way, and then dry it off, because I don't want a super wet brush. And then I'm going to, whichever blending method that worked for you with the yellow, stick with that one so you're keeping consistency in your painting. And by adding this darker color, this accentuates our value scale of this leaf, and this helps us create that illusion, that magical illusion of a 3D object on a flat 2D surface. Now, if you need to, you can go back and grab that yellow and green mixture. If your paint is starting to dry and you need to blend it in with it, you can also add a touch of water to your brush. You never want your brush dripping wet, and you never want to kind of rely on adding water to your brush to be able to do your blending. That's kind of a last resort method. You want to be able to do your blending as much with your paint as possible, and then, like I said, use that water to just kind of help moisten up some of that drier paint. And like I said, you'll kind of find your balance with it. And one painting you may need to do it a lot, another painting not so much. So again, you have to adjust based on what you are painting and the variables you're dealing with. All right. And I think after we do the other top side, we'll come back and I'm going to redefine that a little bit because I want that overlap to be a little more obvious. So on this little finger right here, my paint is pretty dry, so I'm just going to go back and make some of that yellow and green mixture just so I can do a little bit of this blending. And even if you do this and you end up going over your highlight where we put the yellow, if you need to go back and reapply that highlight, go right ahead. Like I said, a lot of painting is just so much of a back and forth action. Like life, there's never an exact formula, just suggestions on how to do it. Unless you're doing math. I guess there's exact formulas in math. All right, so just looking, let's see. Looking to see if there's any questions. Plant fingers work well. Glad you like the Monstera. And let's see, oh, here's the question. How often do you use the grid? And do I freehand most of the drawings? Okay. I'm actually, I think like I've said in some of my other videos, I'm a rather expressive, slightly sloppy painter. So the grid method, as awesome as it is, it's almost a little more structured than I like to paint. But it is a great way to learn on how to draw what you see, paint what you see instead of what you think. So for the video that will be released today, I basically just have you split your quadrant into 4 sections, and then we look and see where each of the designs cross that grid line. And then you would place a mark on your canvas and then go back and maybe you have a mark right here and then you have another mark here. You'd actually have to observe this shape that it makes as you kind of connect the dots. So some of the traceables are a little bit easier. I personally prefer to draw freehand, and I work more with shapes and kind of the perimeter line. So maybe I'll have to do a few videos on that. For anybody that wants to do photorealism, the grid method is the way that it is done. And anytime that you see hyperrealism, photorealism paintings that literally look more detailed than a photograph, that artist is 9 times out of 10 using the grid method. And instead of 4 big squares, they'll put an inch or a ½ inch grid on their picture, and then they go square by square by square. So again, you're training your brain to go, all right, we have white right here, we have a black here, this line moves at this angle, and then you're focusing more on what you see rather than going, oh, I'm drawing a cat or I'm painting a bird, or, you know, it's a way to trick your brain into observing things. Okay, so I think I actually like that blue and the green. So I'm going to go back to that blue, yellow, and green mixture. We're going to put our base on the top of this leaf, and then we'll go back and recreate the same thing. So just like I said, I like building on the same skill on the video. So we'll do it in one section and then do it in another. And same as you mix your yellow and green again, it does not have to be the exact same shade, as long as it's within range, totally acceptable. And again, applying this kind of thick on here, and then we will put our yellow, and then we'll do our blue-green mixture, or if you did the blue-black mixture, you will put your shadow element on there. And again, remember to breathe. If you do need to move back up to that bigger brush, feel free. And I think I'm going to take, I think it was Jen that mentioned it yesterday. I'm going to put a little segment on my website, on the Lovejoy Creations website, and as I guess I'll call it a sample sale, but all the paintings from the teachings that I've done, the YouTube videos. I probably won't put the ones with the reused canvases on there, or the regessoed canvases, just because there is so much texture on some of those. But I think since I've ordered some more panels, I might keep these and work on fresher canvases, and then, like I said, just offer them up for sale. And they'll be, you know, 20, 30 bucks, depending on the size, but all originals. And I'll even sign them. And then if that doesn't work, then I'll just start regessoing again and painting on them. All right. And again, it's just so nice to just relax and move paint on the canvas. Forget about the outside world for a little bit. Drinking your wine. Relaxing after a day. Hopefully you have a good weekend planned. Again, if you're doing this, holding your breath, take a big inhale, then take a drink of your wine. Try not to do them at the same time. And again, if you're mixing your color 2 or 3 times and you've got something darker on there, totally okay. Glad you guys like the sample sale idea. Thanks. I'm hopefully by the end of the weekend, I can have that up on the website. So hopefully on Monday's demo, I will be able to put a link in the description box, and you guys can let me know what you think of it. So. All right, so we've got our base color on here again. Oh, let me do this spot right here while we're making the color. And this is the stem shooting right off the canvas. And if you are doing this on a stretched canvas, just carry that line, go right around the edge, And even kind of a few of these leaves over here, if you want to shoot them off the edge, go right ahead. Again, just looks kind of nice having that wrap around the corner. When you're walking into a room, you almost see the image before you're fully in front of it. All right, so now we're going to go back to the yellow. Let me actually throw more on the plate. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to slap that yellow on there, kind of in the center of the little finger spots. Then we're going to actually put a good chunk of it right down the center, because we do have the spine of the leaf right there. All right, let's see. So we've got a little chunk here. And again, that lighter color does get eaten up very quickly in the darker colors, so you can be a little more generous with the yellow compared to the darker color we'll use next. And if for any reason you wanted to keep this painting more monochromatic, monochromatic meaning you're just using the one color, you could do this with green, and instead of using yellow, you would use white to mix with it, and then you could do the black, and then that way you're just sticking in a monochromatic of your green. So I don't think I've done a monochromatic painting yet for the demo, so we'll have to do that on one of them. All right, so again, whichever blending method that you found that worked for blending your yellow into it, you're just softening that into your base already wet background color or base color. And then now we're going to mix blue and green together and put our shadows on there. And again, as you're following at home, you're just looking at the place where I put the darker color and the general shape that it makes. Does not have to be exactly like mine. All right, I made way too much of that, but oh well. All right, so taking that blue-green mixture, again, we kind of have some of that hanging out on the sides of these little fingers. Oh, we definitely have some coming on this branch down here. That's in full-on shadow. Get a few hanging around these little holes, openings. Okay, so wiping that brush off, and then whichever your blending method was, just going back and softening that color into it. And again, because the darker color is slightly more powerful, if you get too much, just wipe off some of that excess paint, and then you can go back to your blending. And if you have way too much on your canvas, just take a paper towel, wipe off some of that paint, and then, like I said, go back to your blending. All right, and no matter what you guys paint today, please send me pictures of what you paint. Email them, paintwithlovejoy@gmail.com. Tag me in social media. Like I said, they're just so cool to see, and it's proof that you guys are painting along and encouragement for me to keep making videos. And check out the online school, paintwithlovejoy.com. And I'm constantly adding more bundles and paintings. I am working, hopefully by the end of the summer, I will have a full-on grid method painting, and you can recreate any photograph with that method. So I'm in the video editing stages of that. I haven't even started the narrations. So one thing at a time. All right, so on this, I want to do a few more intense highlights, and we're going to use some white with that. And this is kind of the last places or the first places that the light hits. So we're going to use this a little more sparing. So it is going to be kind of in the center, that little stem. And same thing, I'm just basically placing the white on there, and then we're going to go back and blend it in. And let's see, we got a little bit hanging out here. And the main light sources are still kind of in the center of your leaves. Let's get a little bit down on this little tip of the guy. All right, and by adding that white on there, we could even go one more and add black in a few places, but I don't necessarily feel inclined to do that. But we had 3 shades on here originally. We had our medium green and yellow, we had the yellow, then we had the blue-green mixture, so we had 3 shades. Now we're adding one more shade with that white as a more intense highlight. So when you learn about the value scale, you learn that there's basically 9 shades between black and white, and the more that you can incorporate all those shades in a painting, the more photorealistic it can be, and also the more it's going to pop and the more 3D it will look. So as you get more and more into painting and learning about your value scale, start focusing on how many different shades that you see when you're observing something and when you're painting. So whichever blending method worked for you earlier, I'm doing the same thing with that white. So again, whichever one you were finding comfortable. And let's see. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Anita. I'm glad that you saw my stuff on Patreon. Any support that you guys can give, however long, even if it's just a month, on my online school, all my free classes, I have the option on there. You can get it for free, or if you want to buy me a coffee, then you can get it for $5. But any size donation, greatly appreciate. It all goes to creating these videos. This is definitely the Paint with Lovejoy, a passion project. And, you know, it is based on my students that wanted all of this, that kind of prompted it forward the last couple of years. But it's totally through your guys' support, encouragement, things you want me to paint that will keep this going. If you are inclined to send a lot of money or just don't even want to go through those platforms, you can Venmo those to me, and it's at Lovejoy Creations for my main one, or I believe in the description box there should be my address. You're always welcome to mail a check, and you can make it out to Lovejoy or Lovejoy Creations. But any support is amazing. You know, whether it's me or another artist that you're following, but please support your local artist. And, you know, they're basically, all your artists are basically small businesses. They're representing themselves. And through all of this, many of them are hurting. All the small businesses, you know, definitely are struggling right now. I closed my studio last month and doing what I can to just kind of get through this time. And keeping a positive attitude, that's very important. So I am using that pure white right now, and I'm just going back over any places that I overlapped the green onto the background. It does kind of help clean up the edges just a little bit. And again, you want to make sure this is pure white and doesn't have any pigment, because you want it to match the background of your painting, or basically the canvas part of your painting. All right, oh, got a few up here. See, I'm definitely a sloppy painter. So when I started doing the watercolors, with watercolor, you're supposed to leave the white of the paper for your white, so that means you have to plan your paintings, and that's why watercolors were such a challenge for me. I'm used to just slapping paint on there, and when I need to go back to my pure white, then I just go back to pure white paint and layer it on top. So watercolors was definitely stepping out of my comfort zone, and I think that was about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years ago. And since I've been doing the watercolors, I find them so much more enjoyable now, and I don't have as much of a problem leaving the white of the paper. So constantly challenge yourself in the creative world. It's very frustrating at times, but also very satisfying when you accomplish that goal that you set out to accomplish. Okay, so I think that's takes care of it for this video. Greatly appreciate you guys spending time with me, hanging out, having a drinking party on your Friday. Just, I absolutely love it. So thank you guys for honoring me with your time and suggestions for what you want me to paint in the future. Please let me know. And yesterday, like I said, I wasn't feeling all that great. So if I missed a comment as far as what you wanted future painted and it's not on my list on the YouTube page, please just let me know again. And I've got a little piece of paper right here to actually write them down this time. But if you're not sure where that page is, just go to my main YouTube page, scroll down, and you will see what is called, I believe, future live streams. And you can even set yourself a reminder for something specific you want to watch. And you can also see the subject choices. So, all right. So thank you guys. Just looking to see if there's any other questions that popped up as I was concluding that part. But yeah, this actually turned out really nice. Whoops, hit the screen. But yeah, awesome. So until tomorrow, I hope you guys have a fabulous Friday, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.